It's exciting. It's exciting.
We had you finished on Friday.
Same spot?
Exact same spot.
Baruch Hashem. At least I'm somewhat consistent in falling short. All right, I will say good morning, a good tavach. It is a great schos, Baruch Hashem, to be able to begin our first full week of Maseches Sanhedrin. A tremendous schos. Let's begin by thanking all of our sponsors. To thank our annual Talmud Torah sponsor for Tavshin Pehei, the Tilson Mishpach of Eretz Yisrael, for dedicating all the Shirmer Drashos this year in the schos of finishing Maseches Bava Basra and the Eretz Hashem beginning on the journey of Maseches Sanhedrin. Our Talmud Torah sponsors for the month of Kislev Habali Latova, Josh and Becca Friedman, the creation of the yard site of Josh's father Yisrael Yehuda, Ben Rav Chaim Rafael, for the schus, the safe return of all of our hostages, and the security of our precious soldiers. Sammy and Malka Esterson, in memory of their parents, Yitzchok Leib ben Aaron HaKohen, Sarah Rachel Bas Baruch Avram, Hinda Bas Henech Ephraim, and Naftali Yonah Hashem Yikom Damo ben Beatrice Miriam and Daniel Yigal. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, all of the Neshama Slav and Aliyah, the families in Nechama, then indeed Hashem bring our hostages home b'shalom and b'karov, and our holy soldiers will be successful b'chol ma'aseh yedehem. But with that, let us begin. Today's daf is daf Hey. We are picking up Eretz Hashem on the bottom of Daled Amud Beis. Last line, Tan Rabbanan. So we'll say some exciting Gemara ahead of us today. So the Gemara says as follows: Tan Rabbanan, Dinei Mamanis b'shlosha. Okay, so one thing we've established already is that the halacha is Dinei Mamanis, financial adjudication of financial disputes or financial law is done with a beis din of 3. However, top of Hey, Vim Haya Mumcha L'Rabim done Afilu Yechidi. So this is very interesting. So remember, the Gemara introduces us to the concept now of what we call a Yochid Mumcha. What's a Yochid Mumcha? Yochid Mumcha is a person who is a singular expert. This is someone, again, who is recognized for his expertise in the area of financial matters, and therefore Allah L'Maisa is able to judge by himself. Now Rashi points out over here, so remember again, we had this actually a few days ago when we started the Masechta. The lashon of B'tzedek Tishbos as Amisecha is a singular lashon, right? Which it seems to indicate to us that halacha l'maisa, even one individual has the ability to adjudicate the case. Now, the truth is, Rashi also points out over here, Kasavar ein kan irav parshios, and also again, his particular opinion holds that we don't subscribe to irav parshios. Remember again, which means that all of the pieces in Parshas Mishpatim are essentially interwoven with each other. Okay, but leaving that last piece aside, the idea of both says this is the concept of a yochid mumcha. If ultimately again you are someone who is mumcha, and you are known as an expert amongst the rabbim, don afilu yichidi. You can judge even by yourself. Rabbi say, there's a tremendous Moser Haskell in this, which is, if you look at that lashon, v'mhaya mumcha l'rabbim. The truth is, if you feel confident that you are a person who is an expert in all other kinds of people, right? If you really believe that you actually have everyone else figured out, that you know how every single other person operates, then you know what? Dan Yechidi. Then you have a right to pass judgment on others. But if you're not a Yochid, if you're not Mumcha L'Rabim, if you're not an expert in how every single other person operates, then probably better not to pass judgment on people. Which I will say, again, obviously, there's no one person who could claim. There are many people who might think that they are a mumcha l'rabim, who think that they understand how all people operate, but the truth is, it's not true. No one is really a mumcha l'rabim except the Ribono Shel Olam. So because I'm not a mumcha l'rabim, because I don't know how everyone else operates, it is so much better to withhold judgment when it comes to other people. All right, but that's the hashkafa. The halacha, however, the Gemara says, if you are an expert in monetary matters, you have the ability to go ahead and judge by yourself, even without a beis din. Rav Nachman says, "Kigon ana dan dinei mamonis biachas." So Rav Nachman says, like me, I can judge, I can adjudicate monetary cases by myself. Now I will say, the Gemara is like this, very interesting. You say to yourself, wow, sounds like a shtick gaiva, right? A little bit. So I will say, it's not. People confuse this concept, and people think that to be humble means to be self-debasing. That's not what humility is. Humility is a recognition of what you are, but also what you're not. So for example, Moshe Rabbeinu, Torah describes as the Anav Mikol Adam. No one was as humble as Moshe Rabbeinu, but yet Moshe Rabbeinu felt fully confident arguing with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So how does that work? Because Moshe Rabbeinu knew who he was, but because he knew who he was, he also knew that he had the capacity to be more. When a person is right, so arrogance is thinking that you're more than you are, right? An arrogant person is a person who thinks that he possesses all of these qualities or all of these accomplishments when he doesn't. A humble person knows his accomplishments, knows his strengths, but also knows that he has the ability to accomplish so much more. So Rav Nachman is not making an arrogant statement, he's making a factual statement. I know who I am, and I'm an expert in Dinei Mamanas. I could judge by myself. Kigon ana. Done Dinei Mamanas biyachid. So Rabbi Chia said, like me, I can go ahead and adjudicate monetary law on my own. Okay, so both say, so now we're introduced to the concept of a yachid mumcha. Ibaylo. Now this is very interesting. So we'll say, so what does this mean? So now we're gonna delve a little bit more like into the qualifications of this yachid mumcha. So kigon ana, digamirna, disavirna, dinakitna reshusa. So in other words, what do you need in order to be certified as a yachid mumcha, singular expert? So again, obviously gamirna. Now if you look at Rashi says gamirna shmuos dinin mirabosai. So obviously, step number one is you're a person who learned from your Rebbe, right? Which I will say is actually very interesting as well, because what do you see from here? It's interesting that Rashi does. I would have thought the definition of gamirna. What's the definition of gamirna? How would you translate gamirna? You're learned. If you look at Rashi Dafka says, Shmuos dinin meirabosai. In other words, no, it's not just enough to learn. I've learned from my Rebbe. So I will say, what's the difference? We all know this. This is part of the profundity in Torah, right? I think in any other discipline, you could learn knowledge, and you could go ahead and you could acquire the knowledge, and to a certain degree, you could acquire the knowledge perfectly, even without necessarily the right teacher. In other words, the right teacher may help you absorb the knowledge, but lav dafka that I need that teacher in order to acquire the knowledge. Right? I was just speaking to someone the other week about accounting. It's a long story, right? I was actually trying to encourage them to go to accounting, right? So let me say, like, there are certain disciplines you can learn, and a teacher might help you, but you don't need. Torah's different. Torah's different. So what the Gemara is saying over here is, if you're going to become that singular expert, it's not just enough to have absorbed the information. You need a Rebbe. Because that Rebbe, especially again, when we're talking about over here, like Psak Halacha, about Paskin Halacha, that Rebbe is going to teach you nuance. There's shimush, spending time with that Rebbe. There's the intangibles of Torah, the intangibles of adjudication. So it's not just enough to absorb information. You have to have that Torah role model from whom you are absorbing that information as well. It's incredible. So again, in order to become a Yachid Mumcha, a singular expert, obviously Gamirna, you have a Rebbe who you're learning from. Savirna. The Rashi says they're incredible. Yodea ani lahosif uliyashev tamim midaiti. What is Savirna? Svara. What's Svara? Svara is, I know how to take what I learned and apply it to other circumstances. Now, both say this is uniquely like judicial, and in other words, the whole avoda of a dayan, of a judge, is the ability to take information and then the ability to apply it, because often cases that come before the dayan don't exactly mirror the halachas in the Gemara. So you have to know how to take what you learned. So again, there's gamirna, I have the information I got from my Rebbe. Savirna, I know how to take what I learned and I know how to apply it to my particular circumstances. Also, I'll just point out, by the way, these are the processes necessary in our own spiritual development as well, right? It's not enough just to learn the information. I need a Rebbe. I need someone like who I could look to, and then I have to learn how to take what I learned and how do I apply it to my life. You know, I will say, you could take Torah, and Torah says, say, who doesn't love Torah, right? It's incredible. It's incredible. The hard part of, when we're young, maybe like learning is a little bit more of a challenge. As we get older, the process of learning is so profoundly enjoyable. It's so enjoyable. What's the difficult part of Torah? What's the difficult part? the application, right? Taking what I've learned and then applying it in my life, that's where often it becomes a bit more complicated. But learning without application, it's only part of the picture. So again, there's Gamirna, there's Savirna, V'nakita Rishusa. And, this is interesting, do you have to get Rishus? Do you have to get permission from the local authority in order to go ahead and adjudicate? So here, Rashi says, V'nakita Rishusa Merish Kalusa, Daina Dine Mamanis B'yechidi. So it says, here's what's interesting. So in other words, this is speaking specifically in Bavel. So in order to become certified as a singular judge, what we call the Yachid Mumcha, single expert. So obviously I have to learn from my Rebbe, Gamirna, Savirna. I have to have analytical skills to be able to apply what I learned to particular circumstances. And do you also require permission from the Reish Kalusa? Right? In other words, do you have to have, and by the way, there's not just a din in Bavel, remember again, in Bavel, it's the Reish Kalusa. In Eretz Yisrael, who is it? It's the Nasi. It's the Nasi. But the question the Gemara is asking over here is, do you need permission from the local authority in order to go ahead and adjudicate cases as a single expert? So the Gemara says, dine lo dina. But perhaps even if you have the first two, but you don't have permission from the Reish Kalusa, maybe you're not allowed to judge as a singular judge. Odilma, afagav delo nakit rishusa dine dinar. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe you don't need permission. In other words, as long as you have savirna, gamirna, visavirna, as long as you're learned and you have the ability to apply what you learned to cases that come before you, maybe that's enough, and you don't need the permission of the Reish Kalusa. So let's analyze Tashma. The Marzutra, Rab Nachman, Don Dine Vita. Oh, interesting. Marzutra, the son of Rab Nachman, adjudicated a case, and what happened? He made a mistake. He made a mistake in he erred in his ruling. So he came before Rav Yosef. He said, so what do we do now? Amrlei. So Rav Yosef said as follows: Im kiblucha alayu lo tishalim. If the litigants accepted your ruling, and they said, in other words, they agreed to whatever it is that you paskin, that is what is going to be the final ruling, then you are not obligated, Marzutra, you're not obligated to go ahead and pay them back. So we'll say, take a look at Rashi for just a moment. I kablucha alayhu legamre lelech acharecha im ledin im letos lo yitba'ucha lo tishalim. So Rabbi says, this is very interesting. So Marzutra ruled erroneously, and essentially, again, they came before Rav Yosef. They asked Rav Yosef, does Marzutra have to pay back the affected party? So Rav Yosef essentially said, if the litigants accepted you, Marzutra, as unequivocal psak, you do not have to pay back. Now, both say, at first glance, that sounds strange. Why would anyone ever do that, right? Why would two litigants ever say to the judge, no matter what you say, whether you're right or you're wrong, we're going to go by you. So this will going to be a little bit more of a topic in tomorrow's daf, so we'll hold it till then. But Lamaisa, he said to him, if they accepted you, you don't have to pay back. If they didn't accept you, in other words, if they only signed up for a correct ruling, then halacha l'maisi you would have to pay back. So Shema Mina, what do you see from here? Kilo nakit rishusa dine. So we'll say, what do you see from here? You see from here that halacha l'maisa, even if the judge does, first of all, take a look at Rashi. I'm sorry, just one more point. Ilo zil shlim im lav kiblu ta'uscha alehem da amru lacha dayanta din Torah zil shalim umiu mahadr dina lo ama gamer v'saver. Now, here's what's interesting. So, if you notice, by the way, what happens over here, what Rav Yosef essentially says to Marzutra is like this: if the litigants accepted you as an unequivocal arbiter, right, then whatever you did stands, right? Whatever you did stands, you have no obligation to pay anyone back. If they said Marzutra are coming to you for you to paskin in accordance with halacha, right, psak, then if Marzutra ruled erroneously, he would be obligated to pay back the impacted party. But interestingly enough, what doesn't happen? The ruling is not reversed. The ruling stands, but the judge, Marzutra, would have an obligation to make the affected party whole. What do you see from here? Apparently the Gemara understands that Marzutra did not have the permission of the Reish Galusa to go ahead and adjudicate cases singularly as a Yachid Mumcha. And what do you see from here? Shmamina, kilonakid reshuse, dina shmamina. What do you see from here? That even if a judge doesn't receive permission from the Reish Galusa, but he is recognized by the general population as a Yachid Mumcha, as an expert, he is allowed to adjudicate cases. Okay, so we'll say, so again, so halacha l'maisa, it appears, so number one, we'll learn two things so far. Number one, we're introduced to the concept of Yachid Mumcha, an individual who is an expert, an individual expert, and therefore he is permitted to rule on monetary law by himself. Halacha l'maisa, he could also is allowed to do it without the permission of the local Jewish government. In other words, he could do it without the permission of the Reish Galusa, he could do it without the permission of the Nasi in Eretz Yisrael. Now, watch this. Amarav. Haiman de baile meidan dina, the taimi baile miftara. Now listen to this. Comes along Rav, and Rav says like this. What happens if a judge, right? So a guy, we'll call him Ruvain. Ruvain is a Yachid Mumcha. He's a Yachid Mumcha. But Ruvain wants like liability insurance. He doesn't, judges sometimes make mistakes also. He wants to be covered. It's like malpractice insurance, right? He wants his judicial malpractice insurance. So what does he do? Literally translated that if he makes a mistake, he doesn't want to have to be personally liable. Lishkal reshusa mi reish galusa. Then get permission from the reish galusa. If you operate essentially with a license from the reish galusa, that gives you professional coverage, right? And therefore, even if you make a mistake, you will not be obligated to go ahead and pay back the impacted party. Okay, beautiful. So we'll say, so now another halacha, although a Yachid Mumcha is permitted to go ahead and rule without the permission of the Reish Galusa, but getting the permission of the Reish Galusa gives you malpractice insurance. Beautiful. Says the Gemara. Pshita, mehacha lahacha, or mehasam lahasam mahani. Shabbos goes without saying that obviously if a person goes ahead and gets permission from the Reish Galusa, hacha means here in Bavel. Person gets permission from the Reish Galusa here in Bavel, that halacha l'maisa, they could practice, so to speak, their law, right? They could paskin anywhere in Bavel. Similarly again, hasam lahasam in Eretz Yisrael. If you get permission from the Nasi, that gives you the ability to adjudicate cases all over Eretz Yisrael. Here's the shaila. Umehacha lahasam nami mahani. This is very interesting. Similarly, if you get permission from the Reish Galusa in Babel, that gives you the ability to adjudicate cases in Eretz Yisrael. The Rebbe says, you have to understand something. This is a fascinating dynamic. That from the Gemara's perspective, not from the Gemara's perspective, the reality was, in times of the Gemara, the center of Jewish life was in Babel, not in Eretz Yisrael. So as such, if you received the permission from the Reish Galusa to adjudicate cases, that permission covered Eretz Yisrael as well. Why? And that's interesting. The lashon over here is because Hacha and Bavel were called the Shevet, the rod, and Chasam, Eretz Yisrael, is called the scepter. So the rod is stronger than the scepter. The Kedisanya, here we go. The Yasser Shevet mi Yehuda. So we'll say, so the possible is Parshas Vayechi. When Yaakov Avinu goes ahead and gives his children brachos on his deathbed, he says the pasuk is Lo Yasser Shevet mi Yehuda u'Mechokik mi bein raglav. The staff will not go away from Yehuda, and the scepter from between his feet. Ad ki yavo Shiloh, until Shiloh comes. Velo yikas hamim, and to him nations will assemble. Interestingly enough, this is one of the only psukim in the Torah that has any type of scriptural reference to Mashiach. Shiloh is Mashiach. It's machlokes, but Shiloh is Mashiach. This is actually also, interestingly enough, one of the psukim that is most corrupted by the Christians to bring a biblical proof for Yashka. They posit that Shiloh is Yashka. Okay, wrong share. Anyway, so we'll say, hey, but just interesting. So anyway, the Gemara says as follows: Kedisanya lo Yasser Shevet mi Yehuda. What does it mean when it says the scepter shall not depart from Yehuda? Elu Rosh Golio Shebebavel Sherodin Es Yisrael B'Shevet. This refers ultimately again to the Reish Galusa, because the Reish Galusa rules with a staff. As Rabbi say, it's very interesting. The Reish Galusa ruled with an iron fist. Now, sometimes, by the Reish Galus is not the name of a person. Reish Galus is the name of an office, of a position, the head of the Galus. Remember, again, sometimes also they were shtigel corrupt. They were not. Reish Galus wasn't always occupied by virtuous people. Anyway, but the point is, they ruled with an iron fist. Umechokik mi bein raglov, the scepter from between his feet. Elu b'nei banav shel Hillel. This refers to the grandchildren of Hillel, shemalamdin Torah berabim, who teach Torah ultimately again who teach Torah in public. So the idea over here is, if you notice the differences between the way leadership in Bavel is described and leadership in Eretz Yisrael is described. Leadership in Bavel is described as literally again authoritarian. Leadership in Eretz Yisrael is described as theological, right, or religious. They're teaching Torah. So the idea over here is there was much greater authoritarian leadership in the Jewish community in Babel than there was in Eretz Yisrael. So therefore, if you got permission to be a Yachid Mumcha from the Reish Galusa, that allowed you to practice in Eretz Yisrael as well. Okay, but what happens if you got permission from the Nasi? If you got permission from the Nasi to go ahead and be a Yachid Mumcha, right, to be a single expert, were you allowed to practice in Bavel or not? So let's analyze. So Tashma, the Rabbi Bar Bar Chana done Dina Vita. Rabbi Bar Bar Chana adjudicated a case as Yachid Mumcha, right, in Bavel. Now, I will say he paskined in Bavel and he made a mistake. So what happened? So ultimately, again, if the litigants accepted your ruling upon them, just totally accepted, then you have no obligation to pay. V'ilo zil shlim. But if not, go and pay back. That's interesting. Now, Rabbi Bar Chana was given permission to adjudicate cases as Yochid Mumcha. Who is he given permission by? By the Nasi in Eretz Yisrael. And what do you see from here? That ultimately, again, there's a scenario where he would have to pay. So what do we see? Shmamina, mehasam lahacha, lo mahani shmamina. What do you see from here? That getting permission in Eretz Yisrael does not give you coverage in Babel. Right, does not give you coverage in Babel. So we'll say, so fascinatingly enough, so obviously getting permission in Babel covers you anywhere in Babel and in Eretz Yisrael. Getting permission in Eretz Yisrael covers you in Eretz Yisrael, but apparently did not cover you in Babel. Incredible. So the Gemara says, really? V'lo mahani? It doesn't help. V'ha Rabba bar Rav Huna ki ava minsi bahadi the Beirish Kalusa. Yeah, the boss listen to this. When Rabbi Bar Rav Huna would fight, right? Because sometimes, again, different Rabbanim would get into some issues with the Reish Galusa. When he would fight with Reish Galusa, he would say, Amar lav minaychu nakitna reshusa me Abba Mari, va'Abba Mari me Rav, v'Rab me Rabbi Chia, Rabbi Chia me Rabbi. So listen to this. When Rabbi Rav Huna would get into it with the Reish Galusa, he would say, hey, Reish Galusa, my authority does not derive from you. My authority derives ultimately, again, from Abba Mari. Abba Mari gets it from Rav. Rav gets Rabbi Chia. Rabbi Chia gets it from Rebbe. So you see over here that Rabbi Rav Huna was saying that his power comes, right? His authority came from Eretz Yisrael, and that worked even in Bavel. To which the Gemara says, "B'milsa da'amahu da'okim lahu." So it's very interesting. So Rabbi Rav Huna was speaking, was talking tough, but Lamaisa, his words were empty. It's not true. It's not true. His authority to rule on things in Bavel did not come from Eretz Yisrael. As much as he had authority from Eretz Yisrael, his authority to rule, in fact, did come from the Reish Galusa, but he did not want to yield to the authority of the Reish Galusa. Okay? So the Gemara goes right there. So the Gemara says, okay, so now that ultimately, again, certification in Eretz Yisrael does not help for Bavel, Rabbi Bar Bar Chana Rishusa Dinaket Lamali. Why did Rabbi Bar Chana get permission from Eretz Yisrael? In other words, so remember again, the Gemara just said before that Rabbi Bar Rav Huna, right? Rabbi Bar Rav Huna or Rabbi Bar Chana, two different yourselves. So he got permission from Eretz Yisrael, right? But yet he also got permission from the Reish Galusa because his permission from Eretz Yisrael didn't work in Bavel. If permission from Eretz Yisrael doesn't work in Bavel, and you have to get certified in Bavel anyway, then why get certified for Eretz Yisrael? Right? Why get that permission? To which the Gemara said, "La'ayoros ha'omdin ala gvulin." No, because there were certain border cities that, technically speaking, were in Bavel, but really consider themselves to be part of Eretz Yisrael. So for those border cities, Rabbi Bar Chana thought to be more useful to have permission from the Nasi than to have permission from the Reish Galusa. Okay, look at Rashi. Ala Gvulin. So these were border cities that, technically speaking, were in the territorial area of Bavel, but felt, in other words, were more deferential or felt themselves a part of Eretz Yisrael. Incredible. Okay, so what says the Gemara goes weiter? So by the way, how do you get this certification, right? How does this on our side show up at the office of the Reish Galusa, and what's the process for actually getting certified? So Rashi says, "My Rishusa, the Rabbi Bar Chana." So for example, right, how did a guy like Rabbi Bar Chana, how did a person, how did a Talmid Chacham like Rabbi Bar Chana, how did he get certified? So the Gemara says as follows. The Gemara says, "My Rishusa, ki havenochis Rabba Bar Chana." I just want to point out how beautiful this is before that you have these border cities. Ayaras ha'omdin ala gvulin. So right, see, these were cities that were technically speaking in the territorial area of Bavel, but because they were next to Eretz Yisrael, were considered almost like an extension of Eretz Yisrael. What do you see from here? You see from here that sometimes just allowing yourself to be next to holiness, even if you're not in the holiness itself, but just being, we'll call it holiness juxtaposed, has a tremendous impact in who and what you are. And this is such a profound yesod in general for how we look at life. So often we think that it doesn't matter who your chevra is. Right? Whatever, I can associate with whoever I want, it's not going to have an impact on me. It's not true. Whoever you're juxtaposed to, whoever you're samuch to, whatever you're samuch to, or we allow ourselves to experience or to be exposed to certain influences, and we just assume that it's not going to have an impact on me. I'm strong enough. It's not true. Whatever you're samuch to, whatever you're juxtaposed to, whatever you're next to, the people you associate with, the experiences you have, the different things that you allow into your home and into your life, everything has an impact on us. If cities in Bavel, just because they're next to Eretz Yisrael, could be treated like Eretz Yisrael, then or the more so we see that everything that we allow ourselves to be juxtaposed to has a tremendous impact on who and what we are. The Gemara goes like this, "My Rishusa, ki havenochis Rabbi Bar Chana leBavel." Listen to this. So when Rabbi Bar Chana came to Bavel, right? So Rabbi Bar Chana was originally coming from Eretz Yisrael. So now he comes to Bavel, right? And he wants to get Rishus. He wants to go ahead and get permission from the Reish Galusa to adjudicate. So Amrlei, Rav Chia leRebbi. So Rav Chia said to Rebbe as follows: Ben Achi Yored leBavel. Right, so literally again, Ben Achi Yored leBavel. Listen to this. The son of my brother is Kai. So this is Rabbi Chia. So again, so just get the names correct. Rabbi Bar Chana is coming from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael. Sorry, from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel. He wants to get permission from the Reish Galusa to be a Yachid Mumcha, to be a single expert. So now what happened? So Rabbi Chia says to Rabbi, Ben Achi, the son of my brother, Yored leBavel, is coming down to Bavel. Yoreh? Now both say Yoreh, Rashi points out over here, is he permitted to rule on matters of Isser v'Heter? Rashi says Yoreh. Rashi says Isser v'Heter, Amrlam Rebbe Yoreh. Or Gemara Baruch, so both say the idea, Yoreh, what's Isser v'Heter? Halachos of Kashrus, right? Hilchos Nida, Hilchos Shabbos. These are Isser v'Heter type of thing. So Yoreh, is Rabbi Bar Chana allowed to paskin in matters of Isser and Heter? And Rabbi responded, Yoreh. Yadin, is he allowed to adjudicate monetary law? Yadin. Yatir Bechoros, is he permitted to be Matir Bechoros? I was saying, what does it mean Matir Bechoros? Bechoros is the firstborn animal. Firstborn animal becomes mundane, non-sanctified if what? If it has a mum, has a blemish. But you have to know what type of blemishes remove the firstborn sanctity. So is Rabbi Bar Chana permitted to go ahead and be Matir Bechoros? Yatir. Yes, he is. He is. We'll say, by the way, I'll tell you something amazing. Today, so right, we have smicha today, but our smicha today is not real smicha like what they had in terms of the Gemara. But if you notice today, what smicha is called is you can get different types of smicha. There's what's called yoreh or yadin. So yoreh is in matters of Isser Heter. Yadin is in monetary law. So it's interesting. Why is it called yoreh, yadin? This Gemara. Originally, it was a question answer. Yoreh, is this person permitted to paskin, right? Matters of Isser v'Heter? Yoreh, yes. Yadin, are they permitted to go ahead and paskin matters of monetary law? Yadin. Yes, they are. Now, again, I don't know that any smicha of matir for Bechoros today, but so we'll have to reintroduce that soon. So the Gemara says, Kihava nachis Rav leBavel. Listen to this. When Rav came to Bavel, Amar le Rabbi Chia, Rabbi Chia, le Rabbi. So Rabbi Chia said to Rabbi as follows: Ben Achosi, the son of my sister, Yoreh the Bavel, is coming down to Bavel. So this is now Rav. It's coming from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel. So Yoreh, is he permitted to pass in matters of Isra V'Heter? Yoreh, yes he is. Yadin, is he allowed to go and pass in matters of monetary law? Yadin. Yatir B'choros, can he go ahead and permit firstborn animals? Nope, al yatir. Oh, okay, a little awkward. Hey, we'll see what's happening over here. We'll see why Rav was not permitted to go ahead and be matir b'choros. Now the Gemara says, by the way, just as an aside, ma'ishna lamar dekakari ben achi or ma'ishna lamar dekakari ben achoso. Why ultimately again is Rabbi Chia calling one of them the son of his brother and one of them the son of his sister? Both of them were the sons of his brothers. So the Gemara says, I'll tell you, maybe one of them was the son of his brother, the son of his sister. So the Gemara says, no, v'ha'amar mar, Aivu v'chana v'shila umarta v'Rabbi Chia, kulu b'nei Abba bar acha kulu b'nei Abba bar acha karsala mikafri havu. So but yet again, they were all, so the Gemara says, all of these people, Aivu, Chana, Shila, Marta, and Rabbi Chia were all the sons of the same father. As such, again, both of these young men were both sons of his brother, not sons of his sister. So why did Rabbi Chia call one of them the son of his brother, the son of his sister? To which the Gemara says, Rav, Barachua Dahava Bar Achse. Because interestingly enough, Rav was actually both the son of Rabbi Chia's brother and sister. Okay, a bit of explanation on that. Right? So I'll say, so Rashi points out over here that if you look at Rashi says, Ivo, Avo de Rav, Havakim. So we'll say, so interestingly enough, so Ivo, who was the father of Rav, actually married his stepsister. Now, what does that mean? So he married his father, right? His father and mother. His mother died. His father remarried another woman. That woman came to the marriage with a sister, with a daughter. Sorry. So actually, again, so Rav's parents were technically speaking step brother, stepsister, but totally unrelated. So because of that, Rabbi Chia called Rav the son of his brother and the son of his sister. Okay. Fine. So the Gemara says as follows. Good. So good. So Rav bar Achua dehava bar Achse, Rav bar Chana bar Achua dela bar Achse. Okay. So therefore Rabbi Chia responds. So therefore again, Rav was actually technically speaking the son of Rabbi Chia's brother and sister. Rav bar Chana was only the son of his brother, not the son of his sister. Fine. Vi by Sema. The other possibility is Amud Beis Vi by Sema. Ashim Chachmaso Dechsiv. Shabbos is actually quite beautiful. The other possibility is the reason why, Rabbi Chia called Rav the son of his sister wasn't anything to do with the familial link. In fact, Rav was the son of his brother. So why did Rabbi Chia call Rav the son of his sister? It was to highlight Rav's incredible knowledge. As the pasuk says, Emor lechachma achosiat. Say to wisdom, you are my sister. Right? Wisdom is often referred to as a sister and not as a brother. Okay, quite beautiful. So the Gemara says, Yatir b'choros al yatir. So why wasn't Rav given permission to permit firstborn animals? Right? It's interesting, right? Before Rabbi Bar Chana was given permission for Yoreh, Yodin, and Bechoros. Rav was given permission for Yoreh, Yodin, but not Bechoros. Why not? This is very interesting. Maybe you'll say, well, maybe just Rav didn't possess the expertise in this. As I will say, it's an expertise. So maybe Rav just didn't know. But one second, but Rav was an incredible Talmud Chacham. How can you say he didn't know? Maybe he just will say, again, it's not that he wasn't wise. Again, he wasn't a baki, he wasn't an expert in mumin. Right? He wasn't an expert in blemishes. You don't know what you don't know. Again, that doesn't mean he wasn't an outstanding Talmud Chacham. No one is an expert in all areas. Rav said, Shmona Asar Chadashim Gadalti Eitzel Roa Behema Leida Ezemum Kavua Ve'ezemum Over. But one second, Rav said, I spent 18 months apprenticing by the shepherds. in order to go ahead and know what is a blemish that will heal versus what is a blemish that won't heal. But remember again, in order for a bachar, a firstborn animal, to not have firstborn sanctity and just be treated like a regular animal, in order for that to happen, so Allah said the mum has to be a mum that is a mum eino over. It's not going to heal. But a mum over, a mum that's going to heal, ultimately doesn't disqualify the animal. Well, again, Rav says, I spent a year and a half going and apprenticing with the shepherds in order to go ahead and know what's a mum over, what's not a mum over. So Rav obviously knew what he was talking about. So if Rav knew what he was talking about, why was he not certified to be matir bechoros? To which the Gemara says, Ela lechalik lo kavod l'Rabbi bar bar Chana. Rather again, interestingly enough, because they had certified Rabbi bar bar Chana, they didn't want to certify Rav as well, because this was out of deference to Rabbi bar Chana. If Rav was certified, also people would go to Rav and they wouldn't go to Rabbi bar Chana. Look at Rashi, second line down from the top. L'chalei kavod l'Rabba, k'dei sheina go bo b'nei baval kavod shavek lehai chashivusa dilu l'Rav havunagu beyakar belav hachi. So I say here's, it's so beautiful, right? In other words, Rav, when Rav came to Bavel, that was tremendous. And Rav would have been accorded much honor, whether or not he's involved with Bechoros. Rav bar Chana, on the other hand, wasn't the sage of the same standing as Rav, so they wanted to give him this designation of going ahead and paskening on Bechoros, so that he should have his chashivos. Incredible. So the Gemara says, the other possibility is, Mishum hagufei, the Rav bikir b'mumi tvei. So we'll say actually, the reason is just the opposite. Rav was such an expert, v'shari mumi delo yadi inshi. So this is fascinating. Rav was actually an incredible expert, and part of the problem was that he would actually permit blemishes that people did not normally think should be permitted. V'amri ki agavna shara Rav v'asul mishrei mum over. We'll say, people would say, oh, Rav permitted this type of blemish, right? And if he permitted this type of blemish, then this type of blemish should also be okay. And meanwhile, again, their extrapolation was flawed. So I'll say, it's fascinating. This is like good. This is where it comes from. Like, Rav was too good. Right, you're too good. Right, you're too much of an expert. It's not good. So it's actually really fascinating. So because they needed sometimes in life, it's fascinating. Sometimes in life, you don't need the best person. You don't need the best. Right. What you need is just someone who's really good, because sometimes the best is actually not the person who's best suited for the job, right? Sometimes the best actually comes with a bit too much nuance. We just need someone who's really good at what they do. Fascinating. So the concern over here is that Rav, look at Rashi just a moment. See, Rav was such an expert that he was even able to detect things that people didn't realize was a mum, and he would say, oh, this is a mum. The problem just is, what do? People take a psak halacha, but say, what do they do with it? Oh, come on, you all know exactly what they do with it, right? They take up psak halacha that's said at one place, and what happens? Suddenly again, you become the posek, right? And what happens? We'll apply it here, and we'll apply it there, and we'll extrapolate over here. So there's new branches of Yiddishkeit that are starting, right? And again, and all different things. So the problem with Rav is he was too nuanced and too good. It actually wasn't healthy for the system. Rabbi bar bar Chana was actually not as great of an expert as Rav, but that was fine. That's what the system needed. Incredible. The Gemara says, Yora. So the Gemara says, I understand. So now remember again, when both Rav and Rabbi bar Chana came down to Bavel, so Rabbi Chia asked on their behalf, Yora. They know Isser v'Heter. Can they pass Isser v'Heter? The Gemara says, I understand. Yora, I gomer reshus lamali mishkal. I understand. If a Talmid Chacham came to Bavel and he knew how to paskin in matters of Isser v'Heter, right? Why does he need the permission of the Reish Galusa? In other words, both said, let's take a step back. When were we introduced to the concept of getting permission from the Reish Galusa? When were we introduced to that? Right? About 7 minutes ago. Right? So again, right? So remember again, that was on Amud Aleph. That's if you want to be a Yachid Mumcha, right? You want to adjudicate cases of monetary law on your own. You need the Reshus of the Reish Galusa. And what does the Reshus of the Reish Galusa? What does it give you? It gives you malpractice insurance, right? It gives you professional coverage. If you make a mistake, you're covered. You're covered. So the Gemara says, I don't understand. When it comes to Yora, when it comes to just Isra V'Heter, I don't understand. So Rav comes to Bavel, somebody calls him and asks him a Hilchos Shabbos question, so he needs the permission of the Reish Galusa to pass on that. Someone asks him a Hilchos Nida Shaila, he needs the permission. I don't understand. If you have the knowledge, you could paskin. If you don't have the knowledge, don't paskin. What's going on over here? To which the Gemara says, Mishum Maisa Shahaya. So I'll say, this is fascinating. Because of an episode that occurred. What occurred? This is great. I mean, it's not great, but it's great. The Sanya, we learn to this. Pam achas halach Rebbe lemakom echad. One time, Rebbe went to a place, scholar residence, Rebbe went to a place. V'rabbenei adam shemegavlin isaseim b'tumah, and he saw that people were kneading the dough in a state of tumah. In a state of tumah. Now, what does that mean? Rashi says, Lo hayu makpidin l'tar kileihem. They were not makpid that the utensils used for making bread should be tar. So I will say, so again, now I just want to point out, at first glance, this is not necessarily a problem, because if it's chulin, then again, you can eat chulin b'tumah. The problem is, the concern just is, if you have kohanim, leviim, and there is truma, it can be problematic. So Rebbe saw that they just weren't makbid on the halachos of tara at all. So they were making their bread in a state of tumah. Amar lahem, mipnei ma'atem megablin isosechem b'tumah. So Rebbe said to them, Chevra, why is it that no one's makbid to make their chulin betara? Right? Why is that? So listen to this. Amrulo, Talmud echad ba lekan. You know, one time we had another scholar in residence. The Talmud Chacham came here. V'hora lanu mei b'tzaim ein machshirin. And he taught us that marsh water, maybe it means water that comes from a marsh, is not machshir. And I remember again, in order for something to become tameh, what has to happen? The item has to be hochshel tumah. It has to be readied and receptive to tumah. Generally, again, how does an object become readied and receptive to tumah? How? Contact with a liquid, one of the 7 liquids. So listen to this. So they said, oh no, Rebbe, you've got it all wrong. We have no tumah problems over here. No tumah problems. Do you know why? Because one time there was a scholar in residence, Talmud Chacham came along and said that marsh water doesn't make something receptive to tumah, and good news. So, and we only use marsh water, right? We only use marsh water, right? Poland marsh water, right? Poland spring, Poland marsh water, right? We only use marsh water. That's it. So therefore, again, we have no problems with tumah. Only one problem. He didn't say me bitzaim, which means marsh water. V'hu me beitzim darshalahu. So he said eggs, right? In other words, a liquid of eggs is not one of the liquids that makes something receptive to tumah. It's like mei peros, just like fruit juices, right? This does not make something receptive to tumah. Mei beitzim darshalahu, ve'inhu savar mei bitzaim. So he said mei beitzim, and they thought he said mei bitzaim, v'to nami baha. And they also made the following mistake. So they said, "Mei karmiyun umei figa psulin mipnei shein mei bitzoim." So ultimately, they will say, furthermore, again, they made a mistake of another halacha. They will say, for paraduma. Remember, paraduma, the way it works is you have to go ahead and you take the ashes and you mix it with water. So the halacha is that the water that comes from the karmion and that comes from figa is pasul. Now, why is that? Because it's marsh water. And I both remember again, for paraduma, what do you need? You need spring water. Mayim chayim, right? You need spring water. Ve'enu sabri, and they thought like this. So both say. So they pieced together a number of pieces of information. Now it happens to be they were correct that marsh water cannot be used for paraduma. But what they did is fascinating. They linked together multiple pieces of information, one correct, one wrong, to come out with an erroneous conclusion. Ve'enu savar midalgabe chatas psili achshuri nami la machshuri. And they said like this. What do you see? Since marsh water doesn't work for para aduma, i.e. it can't affect tara, that means also it's not the type of water that makes things receptive to tumah. Furthermore, this Talmud Chacham told us that maybe marsh water doesn't go ahead and make something hoksha, doesn't make something receptive to tumah. And the truth is they're wrong on all accounts. Hacha achshure kol du machshiri. So both say by paraduma, the reason why marsh water doesn't work is because marsh water is not spring water. By paraduma, you need spring water. That's why. But marsh water absolutely works as the type of liquid, as water, to make something receptive to be mekabel tuma. And then again, they compounded the mistake by saying, "Bo when the Stam Chacham came along, he said mebeitzim." They thought he said mebeitzim. What happened? So as I said, obviously, I just want to point out how incredible this is, right? So Rebbe comes to this place, and this is like a mess. This is a mess. But these are good people, right? No one here was acting out purposely. Again, they just totally misunderstood the shir. They misunderstood the shir, and they misheard the shir. Tana ba'osa shah gazru. So we'll say after Rebbe saw this, they enacted the following ruling: Talmid al yora ela imkein nitel mishus merabo. A person should not paskin unless, of course, he has rishus from his Rebbe. So we'll say essentially what happened after that. Now, if you notice, by the way, the Gemara doesn't name the person in this story. It just says Talmud, right? Talmud. First of all, also doesn't say Talmud Chacham. It just says Talmud. So this guy came, and he went ahead and he gave a share. And I will say again, one of the most important things that if someone is going to paskin halacha, one of the most important things they have to do is what? Make sure that what they're saying is explicitly clear and cannot be misunderstood. So obviously this guy came, and obviously you can see how people can make a mistake, especially an unlearned audience, between mebeitzim and mebeitzim, especially if their primary water source was marsh water. So this was like a perfect storm that resulted in this erroneous practice of these townspeople. So Rebbe sees this, and the way they paskin was, you know what? No one paskins halacha without rishus from your Rebbe. You have to get permission. So this is where the concept ultimately, and that's why even for Yorah, right? That's why for even matters of Isser v'Heter, right? When these Rabbanim come down from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, they have to get permission to paskin halacha. Incredible. Tanchum, Bereid Rabbi Ami, Ikla Lachatar. So what happened? So Tanchum, the son of Rabbi Abi, went to Tachar, went to this place, Tachar. Chatar. Rashi says over here, a makom, place. Darish lahu. He darshan the following idea: Mutter lilsos chitin bepesach. You're allowed to go ahead and scald grain on Pesach. Now, okay, let's talk about this. Mutter lilsos, Rashi says, really, sorry, take it back, not scald, lishros. Lishros ma'at b'mayim, l'kotra b'machtashas, v'lo chayshinan lechimutz, hoil v'kotran miyat. So we'll say, so remember again, if you have wheat, so you want to be able to separate, again, the kernels from the chaff. So one of the ways apparently they used to do this was you soak it for a couple of moments to just make it a little bit looser, and then pound off the chaff and extrapolate the kernel. So Tanchum, the son of Rabbi Ami, paskin that you could do this even on Pesach. Now what's the chiddush in this? So generally, again, grain and water on Pesach is a no-no, right? It's a big no-no, right? That's why I say we don't make matzah on Pesach. Right? You can't make matzah on Pesach. But 1 second, matzah's kosher Pesach. You're right, but there is a concern that if you get it wrong, what could happen? Chas v'shalom chametz on Pesach, which is obviously very severe. So here, Tanchum is coming along and saying that halacha l'maisa, you could soak the wheat in the water for just because again, this was only done for a couple of moments before it was taken out. There's no chametz issue. So Amrulo, they said to him, Amrulo, Lav Rebbe, Mini Diminsur, Igahacha. So they said to him, 1 second, Tanchum, right, Rabmani is here. There's a greater Talmud Chacham in this place. Why are you passing halacha? Right, Rabmani, right, Diminsur is here. Igahacha, V'tanya, Talmud al Yora halacha b'makom rabo. So the people gave a little bit of Musar to Tanchum. In other words, they're not necessarily even going ahead and disputing what it is that he's saying. But what they're asking on is the process. Either it's his Rebbe or there's a greater Talmud Chacham in this place. So the Gemara says, the time we learned, Talmud al Yor halacha b'makom rabo, a Talmud, the student, should not pass halacha in the presence of his Rebbe. Ela imkein hayarachok mimeno shalosh parsos keneged machane Yisrael. Unless, of course, the Rebbe is at least 3 parsos away. Why 3 parsos? That is the size of the Jewish encampment in the desert. Amar lahu lav adatai. Tanchum said, I'm sorry, I didn't know. I didn't know. And had I known, I would not have passed. Now again, what is this doing here? What is this doing here? So again, this is all part of the same sugya, that before passing halacha, you need permission from your Rebbe. And if there is someone greater than you in the proximity, do not pass in halacha. One more story. Rabbi Chia, Chazir el Gavra, Tavakai bebeis akvaris. Listen to this. Rabbi Chia saw a guy who was walking in a cemetery. Now I will say, now interestingly enough, what's the case over here? So this was a Kohen. So Rabbi Chia sees a Kohen walking in a cemetery. Amrlei, Lav ben ish ploni Kohen ata? Aren't you the son of a Kohen? Right, you son of a Kohen, right? Aren't you the son of a Kohen? Right? What are you doing in here? What are you doing in here? Now I will say, by the way, it is actually interesting, by the way, if you notice how he refers to him, right? He doesn't say to him, aren't you a Kohen? He says to him, aren't you the son of a Kohen? What a profound way to give Musar when you have to give Musar, right? In other words, by saying he's the son of a Kohen, is going ahead and not immediately attaching blame to the individual himself. Sometimes if you have to give Musar to a person, the best way to do it is in a way that doesn't make the person feel terrible about themselves. So Rabbi Chia says to this guy, aren't you the son of a Kohen? So Amarlei, he said, yes, in Avua Dahu Gavra. So my father, Giva Einayim Hava. Now I will say this is fascinating. Giva Einayim means, literally again, he had, literally translated, high eyes. Rashi says, Halach Achar Einav. He followed his eyes. He succumbed to his temptations. Havanasan Einav Begrusha. He went ahead and he decided to marry. He became a little bit wrapped up in a divorcee. He married her. This is this guy's mother, the Chilalo. And as a result, ultimately, again, yes, my father is a Kohen, but I am a Chalal. I'm a Chalal. Now, Rashi points out over here, what is this story doing here? Right? Rashi says, Lo isparish lon my bayahacha. Rashi says, Rabbi Chia, Chazeh, my bayahacha. V'nira be'inai, ta'asla shu'inan afagab de Rabbi Chia, ta'mido de Rabbi Hava, or b'kom de Rabbi Hava, lo chalak lo kaval Rabbi mila hafrish zeh mina iser. De le'inyan afrushe mi isura, ein kan mora halacha b'fnei rabbo. Both is incredible. What do we just get finished saying? If you want to pass in halacha, what do you need to do? You need to get permission, right? You need to get smicha from your Rebbe. Don't pass without permission. And furthermore, again, if you're in a city and your Rebbe is there, or a greater Talmud Chacham is there, don't pass in the presence of a greater Talmud Chacham. There's an exception to this rule. What's the exception? What's the exception? If you see a Yid committing a prohibition, committing an Aveira, then again, step in if you can and try to prevent it. And don't worry about, is there a greater Talmud Chacham, not a greater Talmud Chacham, you have smicha, you don't have permission. If you see a Yid doing something wrong and you could step in and prevent it, then again, we do not worry about the chain of command in that situation. So even though Rabbi Chia was a Talmud of Rav, they lived in the same place. Rav was a greater Talmud Chacham. When Rabbi Chia saw this Kohen entering into the cemetery, and again, he stepped in order to prevent him from transgressing. Again, it turned out that the kid was a chalal and not a kohen, but lamais, again, that's the message of the Torah. Which I will say is a tremendous Musar Haskell as well. You know, in life there is like this very fine line between when you see something that has to get done. Sometimes not everything has to get done by me. In life, it's important to know that not everything is your business and not everything is your problem. And sometimes you have to let certain things be cared for by other people. But then there are other times where if you see something happening, you have to step in. You have to step in. And life is this delicate dance about knowing when to step in versus when, not even delegate is the wrong word. When do I step in and act versus when do I absent and allow others to take the role. So again, just this incredible dialectic. But I'll point out over here how profound and overwhelming this is, that Rabbi Chia sees a situation, and again, it could have been so easy, A, for him to look away, right? Not my problem, I don't know this guy's story, or B, to go in and say, you know what, there's someone greater than me. But I will say, so often in life, we encounter situations, and I'm the one who's there in that moment. I'm the one who has the opportunity to affect change. And it's so tempting sometimes just to look the other way. But often the Rebbe Shalom places us in circumstances because it is uniquely us who has the ability to affect change in that very moment. Everybody, so stop over for today. Shkoyach, everyone. Shkoyach, shkoyach. Incredible. All right, Chevron Zoom, have a great day, everyone.